Thanks for tuning in to High on Horror. I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to all the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today we're reviewing the hard-hitting emotional horror film A Banquet. This is another movie that you can find on Shudder ready to stream with the click of a button, and it's well worth the watch. We have the director Ruth Paxton here today for a deep dive interview.
Plus, we got some questions to answer that some of you listeners wrote into us.
All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. Let's start this episode off right by getting right. It's time for Strain Wreck, the segment of our show where we discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in this episode, and discuss current events. Nope came out last weekend to some solid reviews. We haven't seen it yet, but
I've seen a lot of mixed reviews online.
Well, let's take a second, though, because we haven't seen it yet, to just thank Jordan Peele for being a humble guy and an honest guy by paying John Carpenter respect.
Yeah, some rando, apparently it's a comic book creator named Adam Ellis. I'm not familiar with him. But he posted, he said, I know this is a hot take, but at what point do we declare Jordan Peele the best horror director of all time? Can you think of another horror director that had 3 great films, let alone 3 in a row?
Several.
I can't. I mean, yeah. I was talking with Nicole, I was like, yeah, even if you take away and just go with his 3 great films, like just that is a bunch of horror directors.
Yeah.
But Jordan Peele objected, and he said, sir, please put down the phone, I beg you. Then followed up with a second tweet and said, sorry, I love your enthusiasm, but I will not tolerate any John Carpenter slander.
Yeah, man. Also, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's awesome that Jordan Peele doesn't. I like that he's humble enough that he doesn't like hold himself up on this pedestal that everybody's put him on. You know what I mean?
And it's funny because I saw people in different horror groups where they're like, I don't like Jordan Peele's movies, but I respect him for saying this.
I mean, whoever wrote that, I'm not familiar with the guy either, but he clearly never saw any George Romero films or David Cronenberg films. I mean, Wes Craven films. Like, holy shit, what kind of question is that, or statement is that to make? Has there ever been a director who's done 3 good horror movies, let alone 3 in a row? That's just like that's a really stupid statement. Another
comment said, this is what happens when you let people say they're horror fans and they're only familiar with anything from 2010 on. But we also
you got some smoke. You got some smoke over there.
I got some new shit this week. I got some sour kosher. It's some small buds, so they gave a bit of a discount.
Sour kosher. I'm going to take a look at this.
I mean, you should like it. It's a tasty sativa strain, and it's a cross of the AJ cut of Sour D and their own award-winning kosher kush. Its influences slow down the high a bit, leaving you feeling a bit more relaxed and at ease with the sour diesel. So you get that gassy, piney, and sour aroma, and it's got a pretty good amount of THC in it. You got the bag, huh?
It smells so good. It's like it's sweet. It almost doesn't smell like weed. It smells like it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's almost it smells like some sort of fruit. It's really sweet smelling. That's impressive. I'm looking forward to it. Like, hopefully it tastes as good as it smells. On top of getting us wrecked.
Yeah, my God, they make these bags sometimes hard as shit to see how much THC's in it, but it looks like it's about 18.5%.
That's nice. We got a fatty daddy rolled right here. That's our boy Kenny's term, fatty daddy. It's the first time I heard that from him, from anybody.
Where the fuck did I put this later? Oh, there it is.
Okay, so while you light that up, the Jeepers Creepers 3 trailer dropped, as did the poster, and I thought it looked amazing. Did you take a chance to watch it? I sent it to you. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I haven't seen the trailer, but that poster does look nice. I'm not a big Jeepers Creepers fans. I like fans. I'm not a big Jeepers Creepers fans.
It's like OnlyFans for Jeepers Creepers fans.
But more than one. They're okay. There's some people that absolutely love all of them, but the first 2 are solid.
Yeah, the first one's the best one. The second one's good. The third one is forgettable, and I don't and won't own that one. But this one actually looks really good, and it's in theaters, I think, 3 days. I think I should have this information in front of me. We posted it on our Instagram. I think it's the 18th, 19th, and 20th, or the 19th, 20th, and 21st of September. It's in theaters for 3 days only, so we definitely need to get our asses to the theaters to see that one.
There's so many fucking horror movies
I know.
this year.
and get you guys a review, get you listeners a review for that, because that's going to be one everybody's looking forward to. It looks like from the trailer, it looks good. Like I said, I keep saying it looks good. It looks good. It looks like the local town is celebrating a festival, where they're paying homage to the Creeper as like a local legend, and people are kind of dressing up and cosplaying and shit. And the Creeper actually wakes
an urban
up.
Legend.
Yeah, and the Creeper actually wakes up. It's been 23 years as this festival is happening. So he goes to this con. We'll call it a con. He goes to the con and he sniffs out his prey, and then he lures them into his home. The protagonists think that they're going into an escape room, but they end up at the Creeper's house. Like they mention that they're looking to go to an escape room, and then the trailer shows that they end up at the house and they think they're in an escape room, and then until some crazy shit goes down, that's when they realize, oh shit, we're not in an escape room. So clearly somewhere along the way, that's not something that's not shown in the trailer, is like they're misled somehow from going to the actual escape room to going to the Creeper's house. I'm sure the Creeper has something to do with that, but they're misled from going to an escape room and end up in the Creeper's new lair, where it's booby trapped like Saw. Like it's got like Saw traps everywhere. But yeah, it looks good. I'm still not a fan.
Creeper wants to play a game.
I'm still not a fan of how the Creeper looks. We posted pictures. Remember when we posted those pictures a few months ago of
They look cool on the poster though.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of what I saw of the leaked pictures. You can Google them, or I think that was in our story on Instagram. I didn't want to get in any trouble or out the movie and have them be like super like seen everywhere. So I thought it was posted in our story, but we posted pictures of what the Creeper looks like in the new film. The photos are out there. If you Google them, you can find them. I'm not impressed with his look, but the trailer looked good, and the look of the Creeper isn't enough to make or break the film for me. So I'm definitely going in. It has to be better than 3. I think there's definitely room to be better than 2. I don't know if it'll be better than 1. I don't know if there will ever be a Jeepers Creepers movie better than the first one. But
I don't know if there'll be one as good as the first.
Right. Well, they say though the early reviews of this one say that this is the scariest Jeepers Creepers. Now we know to take that with a grain of salt, because everybody hypes shit up. We got people saying that Jordan Peele's the only director who's directed 3 horror films, so take it with a grain of salt. But people are saying it's the scariest Jeepers Creepers film ever. So we'll see if that's true or not.
Speaking of trailers, Halloween Ends.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
It was coming out, but I mean, I say it about every Halloween. All the trailer looked good.
Yeah, I told you that they said, I heard that like the last 19 minutes of the film or something like that. I don't know if it's going to actually be that long, but the end of the film is an actual showdown between Michael and Laurie, and that's basically what the trailer shows you. And they even Laurie's even wearing a blue button up to kind of reminisce or pay homage to what she wore in 78. That. Yeah, so what did you think of the trailer? I thought it looked awesome. I mean, fucking Michael Myers trying to put her hand down the fucking drain, down the garbage disposal. I was like, oh, it's getting dark.
Also, people have pointed out that, well, I mean, it's in the plot, there's a second Michael, but the one scene that shows Michael come in, you can look at his left hand, and he has all 5 fingers.
No shit, I didn't notice that. What scene is that?
It's the one where it's like the 78 with him creeping up the house.
Yeah.
And then he opens the door and Laurie's there with the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch, when he pushes the door open with his left hand, it's all 5 fingers.
Oh, shit. Oh, I did not see. That's something that... But it's funny because when it shows her fighting him, he's missing his fingers. Like later when she stabbed... Because it shows her stab him in the hand.
And they had him missing the fingers in Halloween Kills.
Right. So, yes. Okay. Well, so I saw that theory about a second Michael, but I didn't really...
Well, it's in the plot that there is a second Michael.
It's in the plot that there's a second Michael.
Yeah, if you read on the YouTube, it's in the plot. There's another guy.
Oh, what is it like? Somebody's like...
copycat.
Oh, shit. Oh, man. So you're going to be dealing... Oh, okay. I can dig that, but...
I guess that's their homage to 4.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it, though. A lot of people are bitching about the trailer. I thought it looked good. I like that Laurie says, come and get me, motherfucker, in the trailer, and it lets her. No, I just want to take a second, though, to just say, that's what I like about James Jude Courtney as Michael Myers, is not only is he swole, which he is swole for this movie, he looks huge, but it's the fact that his Michael, he did it in 2018 as well. He plays fucking dirty. He doesn't just stab you or come at you we talked about in Halloween Kills. How he stabbed the old man repeatedly, way too many times, or the old woman. I mean, but But I mean, like
No,
Jesus,
it was a guy. Are you talking about the one
in the
with
back
with
where he
pink
stabbed him.
cushion?
Like, yes, yeah, pin cushion his back. But like the way, like when he's fighting Laurie in this new trailer, and he grabs her hand, he's like legit, like just trying to force her hand down. He turns the garbage disposal on, and then is trying to force her hand down the drain. I'm like, this isn't Michael just trying to yoke you up and hold you against the wall. Like he is like physically, like
He tried to bob you.
he is intentionally trying to cause as much physical harm and play as dirty. He's like Ric Flairing, and he's like the four horsemen Michael Myers right now. Just remember Ric Flair's
You gonna nut kick Lori?
win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. And I just feel like Michael he's just playing. I mean, granted he's missing some fingers, so he's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah.
But I love how dirty he's playing because he's already got an advantage. Like you don't need to be a scumbag about it, but I love it. I'm looking forward to it, man, for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if the time jump, if we're just gonna jump, because there's a 4-year time jump. So I'm not sure if we're just jumping straight in, or if it's gonna be like maybe a couple minutes, like how the last one picked right up. Well, I guess it was still all the same night and Halloween ends, really.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's just gonna pick back up there and then we're gonna jump ahead. I wonder if there'll be any more 78 flashbacks.
That was amazing. I don't know, but that would be really cool if there was. I'd have no problem with the way Loomis looked, but just the whole,
Did Michael kill again?
yeah. There was something off about the voice. If they could just adjust that a little.
Like
bit.
I told you, I just finally watched the extended cuts. Before I had only just watched to see what the end was, and dude, that scene every time, just when he comes in, it's just something about the way he says again.
Yeah, Michael kill again.
It reminds me of fucking Chris Jericho. When he's like, "You'll never be the same again."
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's totally a good one, man. All right, well, before we get off track and ramble, which we usually do during this segment, what's going on this week in horror history?
This week in horror history.
All right, so this week we got The Night Evelyn Came Out of Her Grave. That's a long-ass title.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to go too much into this because I swear we talked about this.
1972.
Right, yeah. But I swear that we talked about this last July, so I don't want to go too much.
I don't think we did.
Maybe we didn't. I don't know, but
You high.
This is one of my favorite covers of all time. It's not the best Giallo, but it's definitely good. And the American cover art always stuck with me. I saw it when I was young, way before I ever saw the film. It's brilliant. The director, Emilio, I hope I say this right. It's been a long time since I've heard his name said aloud.
Emilio Maragali.
Maraglia.
No, I said it right.
Mergliata.
Mergliata.
No, there's no D. There's no D.
No, I was saying fucking damn Mergliata, the fucking UFC ref.
Well, the director's name is Emilio Maraglia. And he also directed The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, which is another good Giallo that I own. I haven't seen any of his non-Giallo films, but he's only directed 6 films.
Up next, we got the first Halloween film that I got to see in theaters. For me, I will say I feel like I don't like it as much as when it came out. And Halloween H2O, or just H2O, water.
Yeah, man. I like H2O. We went over this in our Halloween
it's
episode.
It's that fucking mask, man. That's what does it.
Which one? There's like fucking 7 of them.
Like, you see way too much of his eyes.
Is it 7? Again, I'm off right now.
I forget. One of them's fucking digital.
I am not calibrated right now.
God.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
That's like the best scene in the movie. That's what sucks. Like that kill with the fucking with the what he does to Charlie. Well, you don't really see what he does, but like that scene is really one of the best scenes. And the mask, like you said, and I didn't know it was CG until I saw it extra on the DVD. I thought that it just looked bad, or like the lighting was bad, and then I'm like, that makes sense. That shit looked off. Yeah, it looked off. You could tell. But I mean, that and the original and Part 2 were like my favorites until the new trilogy started. Now, I think 2018 and Kills probably edged that one out of my top 3 for sure.
I like both 2018 and Kills better than
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I like Halloween. If we're not including 3, I like 2 more. And I also like 4 more.
So, what are your 3 favorite Halloween films right now? If you had to pick 3 out of the entire series, obviously the first one.
Yeah, obviously the OG number 1.
Mine, I would do the OG the OG, Kills, and Halloween 2.
Oh, you like the Kills better than 2018?
Yeah, I said that in our review. Yeah, I like the build up
right.
of it,
I don't
Kills, but
remember
I
this
like
shit.
it was more to just
That
to
was
the
more
point
than
in killing.
2 minutes ago.
It was more to the point in killing. So yeah, I go with Kills.
Right now, I would go the original 18. Even though it's funny because my least favorite scene is that doctor scene. I hate that. I don't know that each one that and Kills has one. The Kills is that whole scene with the patient. I get the whole message, but that for that movie and for 18 with Sartan stabbing our boy. What the hell is his name? Hawkins.
Yeah, so you're not calibrated either.
But anyway, Halloween 2018, and I guess I would go the original number 2.
Yeah, so we basically same 3, but we swapped 2018 and Kills. Dude, it's funny because it's like I almost like hate talking about Halloween 2018 with you because every fucking time, regardless of if we're just talking about a specific scene in that movie, if we're talking about
Sartain
you have to fucking bring up the Dr. Sartain scene every time. Like,
But
it go.
I feel it's important.
If you can move past it, then please let it go.
I can't, bro. That is one of the
me.
worst scenes
It did not bother
in
me.
the entire franchise's history.
In the entire history. Damn.
I didn't say the worst. I said one of the worst.
I mean, like, it's still better than White Horses, though, right?
When we're talking about I guess, never mind. When I just blocked those out of my mind. So, like, I didn't even consider Rob Zombies. I was figuring all non-Rob Zombie Halloweens.
You're just like...
Those are a separate horror unto themselves.
It's like beginning of Halloween to Rob Zombie's Halloween to the end of Rob Zombie's Halloween. The worst sequences in the Halloween franchise ever.
From Rob Zombie's H1 to the end of H2. That's just the worst.
What else we got going on, man?
Yeah, we only 2 movies in. One of my all-time favorite Friday the 13th. I loved this so much as a kid. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, man, that's the one my sister Tara liked growing up. She always liked Jason Takes Manhattan.
It's so bad, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, especially the end.
Yeah, the
that
end when he's a
makes
little boy.
0 sense.
Right.
I never understood it as a kid, and nobody could explain it to me, but I'm like, fuck it, I still like it. Why did he turn back into a kid? I don't know, but this movie's awesome.
The funny thing is they kind of repeated that in Freddy vs. Jason, too. Speaking of Freddy vs. Jason, in the dream, he's just like randomly a little boy shivering, and Freddy like sticks his blade in his temple. It's a dream, right? So, I mean, that's acceptable,
makes
right?
Makes more sense than somehow the sewer fills with toxic sludge every night, and somehow the toxic sludge doesn't scar him in any way. He actually takes away his scars and brings him back to being a boy.
It shrinks him and brings him back to his youth, right? It's that, it's like Jack Nicholson needed that shit in Batman. So they wouldn't have gotten all disfigured. But, no, did you ever see the extra footage, like in the pictures of that big Jason head that was supposed to be in the sewer at the end? They never ended up like using it, but it was just like a huge Jason head, like absolutely ridiculous. But
and also that came out in '89. I'm doing a bad job, I think, unless I said it. I don't know.
I'm
doing a bad job.
We're high. We're cruising today. But no, I like Jason Takes Manhattan. I said before that Jason Takes Manhattan is like it's like followed by Jason Goes to Hell, and it's like that's when you know the series kind of started to take a downfall. Even though I still like Manhattan, it's like Manhattan takes Jason out of Crystal Lake, and then Jason Goes to Hell took Jason out of Friday the 13th. So it's kind of like, you know, when one you're missing Camp Crystal Lake, and then in the next you're missing Jason. But Jason Takes Manhattan was fun. There's a lot of good kills in that movie. The acting is ridiculous. It's what you'd expect.
Great 80s music.
The fucking best kill for me is the fucking, help me out here, man, in the sauna. That's that rock. What do you call that?
I forget. What
Okay, that hot rock. We're gonna call it a hot rock. He took that black hot rock and just fucking slams it through my man's chest. That is just absolutely brutal. And the fact that, Jason, I get that you're a tough motherfucker, but you picking up like some like scolding rocks with your bare hands, fingerless gloves rather, not bare hands, but fingerless gloves. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, Jason's a bad motherfucker.
I tried to look it up quickly to see if I could find any names, and it just keeps saying sauna rocks.
Okay, it's
Which
a
I
sauna
know
rock.
that ain't right.
We'll call it that.
Whatever.
It's a hot sauna rock.
I just happened to glance. The quote was, it says, the best choice for sauna rocks are the ones closest to home that are suitable composition. The quote doesn't mean anything. The guy's name is Dick Waskey.
Dick Whiskey?
Maybe he gets it, but Waskey.
Okay. No, but Jason Takes Manhattan, I've said this before. My 3 favorite films of the originals are Part 4, Part 1, and it always switches, but I'm going to say Part 3. I think Part 1, 3, and 4 are my favorites. And
for 6,
but then when I get, those are like my favorites of like the serious ones, and then when it gets into like the fun ones, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Lives, and I hate to say because I love the movie, but I find the remake to be really fun.
I like the
so
remake.
I would put that as like in the fun ones as well.
I don't even know that the original's in my top 3. That's
Well,
probably fucked up.
But we talked about this before. The original has the best motive, best plot.
Yeah.
You know.
But I just take Jason to be fun movies. I like 6, 2, and 4.
You like 2 because of our girl Lauren Marie Taylor.
I mean, 2's a solid one. Jason shows he don't care. People in wheelchairs can get it too.
I know, man. And that's the worst part about it was my man was about to hook up like Jason. That was cock blocking. Like at least now see here we go. I don't have my notes in front of me, and I'm terrible with names. If you listen to this podcast, you'll know. But the couple in the film who are doing it, and Jason gets impaled through impales him with the pitchfork. At least like my man got like he was raw dog and he got it in.
He
like
was raw dog.
At least my man was like, you know, he did his job, but you know, he was getting it done before Jason stabbed him. So it's like at least he kind of like got to go out on like I hate to sound like I don't know, like, but he got to go out like, you know, hitting his girl. He was having a good time until bam, like the last minute of his life sucked. But besides that, he went out on a high note. Whereas my man in the wheelchair, Mark, I believe his name is, I want to say Mark, he just got completely cock blocked. Like he got his hopes up. The girl was going and getting dressed in every Lauren Marie Taylor. She was going
She
and getting
only
her,
wanted fingers.
getting them brown panties on. She was gonna do her thing, you know, and that's cock blocking to the max. Like that's just, man, you got my man's hopes up.
So anyway, back to Jason Takes Manhattan. I've probably brought this up before. I feel like I probably have. If not, well, if I have, fuck it, you're going to hear it again. They were supposed to shoot most of the movie in Manhattan. That was the plan. And for whatever reason, nobody decided to ever look into what the costs were, and then they saw how much it was, and we're like, yeah, we could film like 30 minutes.
There's just some shit though, like that's one of those movies where you have to be willing to ignore certain shit because like if you want to say, oh, it's just Jason on a boat, it's stupid, like whatever. But then if you really break it down, like why is there just a fucking a barrel, a vat of fucking like toxic waste just chilling in an alleyway? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's shit like that.
It's
that are
New
just,
York
what?
in the 80s, dude.
That's the trash can of prostitutes and druggies from the 80s. It just turns into toxic waste after like a week.
But best kill is not the uppercut.
Oh, I said it was the sawdust node.
I know. I'm just saying though. Like, you ain't picking the uppercut.
I mean,
When he uppercuts his head, sends it rolling.
into the trash can and then the lid closes. I'm gonna still go with the sauna rock just because I just think that's brutal.
Still a
Just-
better scene than Dr. Sartain with Hawkins.
Oh my god. Or white horses.
I'm not even good.
That's how I'm gonna dethrone that. Every time you bring up Sartain, I'm gonna bring up the white horse, and you'll just eventually bitch about Rob Zombie again and forget about Dr. Sartain. I think I figured you out.
Damn. I'll have to change. I'm gonna have to Roddy Piper it. I'm gonna have to change the questions.
Your wrestling references are on point today.
1999. I think you're more of a fan of it than I am. The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, I really like the first film. I like the newer film too, the Blair Witch Project. Or no, it's just called The Blair Witch that Adam Wingard did. You know, bringing up Godzilla vs. Kong, the director of that.
Wow, you brought up a Godzilla movie, Chuck.
I like the Blair Witch that he did, and I like the original that you're talking about from 1999. Scared the shit out of me when I first saw it. The to me, just being a kid and watching them when they're lost in the woods and just kept coming across that same log, that was just scary. Like I felt the claustrophobia of that and like just like the feeling lost. Doesn't really affect me like that anymore and hasn't since, but that first watch really stuck with me, and because of that I always kind of hold it in a high regard. But it really, honestly, truthfully, it doesn't really have rewatchability. Once you see it, I don't really see there being like, there's nothing to gain from seeing it again, because truthfully nothing happens. When you don't know what's going to happen and you're watching it for the first time, you're going along for the ride. After that and you realize nothing really happens, you don't really need to see people arguing in the woods for an hour and a half again.
Because we were kids when that came out. Well,
yeah,
like
middle school,
I was
right?
I was like 13.
Yeah, not elementary. That's too young. Middle school.
Elementary. I don't know why I
said it like I don't know what's wrong with you.
It's
anyway.
A British person terrible British accent trying to say elementary. Elementary.
I don't think that's how British people say it. Maybe.
Nah, dog, you ain't cultured like me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, I don't even know where the fuck I was going with it at this point. Oh, yeah. So I think I was like 13 or something like that when it came out. Did you think that it was really before they I think it was shortly after it came out, they were like, oh, it's not real that the people were lost. Did you buy into that hype?
No, I never bought into that hype. I always...
I did. And then I look back, I was like, why the fuck would they just allow people that disappeared to have their footage just released as a fucking movie?
Exactly. That's what you'd have to ask. Is that would be crime scene footage. That wouldn't be. You'd find that in the evidence lab. You wouldn't find that, playing on a movie theater screen. But no, I didn't really buy into it. I figured it was just actors, but I didn't really even know that they were hiding. I just thought they were just no-namers, and nobody really cared who they were. And honestly, they really haven't done anything since, But
were they put into hiding?
Yeah, they deliberately. There was a deliberate thing.
I didn't know if it was just people didn't know who the fuck they were.
That's what I thought what it was, but no, they deliberately stayed low for a bit while the movie was coming out to kind of stir the controversy and keep the myth up about it. But look, I'm not. We've talked about Ty West before and slow burns, and I am not that kind of guy that needs you just show me the monster. I'm fine with ambiguous stuff. I'm fine with not seeing things. But I really, really, really feel like the Blair Witch should have showed the witch. I really just feel like it's missing something. It dragged on too long with we talked before. If you're gonna do that, there has to be a payoff, and the payoff is my man standing in the corner, and then the camera falls. It's that you wait an hour and a half for that. You know what I mean? You don't even hear kids chanting and shit. Like nothing. So it's I just feel that there was a little bit of too little nothing in that finale to make it be a great movie like some people say it is. I think that it was a great experience. I don't think it's a great movie. There you go. Put me down as that. That's my quote about it.
Put it on the board.
Put it on the board.
And then lastly for this week, this is geez, I think this has been one of the longest horror hiss we've done in a while.
Horror hiss, but that's good because we have some where there's nothing to talk about.
What was it, 2 weeks ago? It was 2 movies I haven't even seen.
And you were literally just go listen to a previous episode if you want a better horror history from us.
And then I'm surprised I ain't get bitched out saying how are you having 2 on there and you ain't even seen them? Because that's how bad that week was, okay? It might not actually been that bad.
Who knows? It's all a blur at this point.
But fuck. Lost Boys, 87.
My favorite vampire movie.
Third best vampire movie.
My favorite vampire movie.
Third best vampire movie.
I grew up with this movie. This was what Twilight basically tried to be. The Lost Boys was Twilight in the 80s. It was the 80s rock and roll version of Twilight. It was the cool kids coming in, and now it's hip to be a vampire. It's cool, attractive people dressing hip, being badasses, being rebels, as introducing that from going gothic like Barlow from Salem's Lot and Dracula. Yeah, to basically hair metal, yeah. And that was kind of the thing, was oh, now it's cool to be a vampire. And the Twilight tried to do that again, and it was just a joke. But I love the Lost Boys, everything about it.
It's got the Kiefers.
The thing about the Lost Boys is just it is so rewatchable. It is just I could always watch it, always laugh. Knowledge nug, the Lost Boys vampires are inspired. I'm sorry, the Buffy the Vampire from the TV show. Joss Whedon's Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. The vampires on that show were inspired by the Lost Boys vampires. I mean, it's kind of obvious if you look at Spike's face or Angel's face, and you look at Kiefer Sutherland's eyes and all.
Keith.
And also, before we move on, I believe it's in October. Fright Night's coming out on 4K, as is The Lost Boys is coming out on 4K. Lost Boys and Fright Night are both getting steelbooks. If you order the Lost Boys steelbook from Zavvi, you get a hardbox edition that comes with a poster and a bunch of other shit. So if you just want the steelbook, go to Best Buy. If you want to get a bunch of extra shit and like a bigger case for it, you're going to order that shit from Zavvi, but it's not available for order yet. So keep your eyes and ears open, because I'm going to get my order in on that.
Yeah, so like, it's a good vampire movie. Like I said, it's top 3. I got Near Dark and Fright Night ahead of it.
Which is funny because those are all my 3 as well. They're just out of order. Mine's Fright Night. I'm sorry, Lost Boys.
No, you got to
Fright
write
Night,
the
Near
first
Dark. No. No.
But with Buffy though, I've only ever watched the movie. I've never watched the TV. I mean, I've seen when Nicole's watched the TV show, so I can't say I've never watched it, but I've never like sat down and watched an episode like beginning to end and like paid attention to it.
It's good, man. I think Buffy is like kind of like Harry Potter, where, well, that would make you not watch it. So let me not
yeah,
use
like,
that.
Okay.
In the sense that Buffy is consistent, but it's like once season 3 and 4 hit, that's when shit gets dark because they're older and they're dealing with. So it's like once seasons 1 through 3 are fun. They deal with some dark shit, but once seasons 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 hit, it's like, oh damn, like, you know, there's like attempt, like at one point Spike almost tries to rape Buffy, you know, like it gets pretty dark.
That's the selling point you use.
Well, that's just to let you know how dark it gets at that point.
I know you guy,
Buffy
and let me tell you,
she dies and comes back, and they don't do the shit that they do on Supernatural, where she dies every episode and is brought back. So you're not like, oh, it's okay, she'll be back. Like, no, like she legit dies, and she comes back, and it's like some Pet Cemetery shit. You would like Buffy.
I'll have to check it out, but it's interesting in your pitch to me. You go, well, you know, since I know you, I'll tell you the stuff you like. It has almost rape.
I was using that as an example for how dark the show got.
Now,
maybe it was a bad
again,
example,
I know
but
nothing about either of these, but were you did you like Buffy or did you like Angel?
I was always a Spike fan.
Well, I mean, like the show.
Oh, Buffy, 100%. I thought Angel was terrible. I watched Angel, but I didn't really want to watch it until the final season when Spike came on. Spike joined after Buffy died.
Spike Dudley?
William the Bloody. After he went over to Angel after Buffy ended. So I started watching Angel then and went and got caught up on the prior seasons and just was not impressed. I'm not a fan of David Bananas. David Bananas.
David Bananas. Anyway, we have been rambling on for horror history for like, I gotta say, probably 20 plus minutes.
Bro, and this blunt is still going. This
I know.
is this powerhouse right here.
It did not start well at all.
We're naming this blunt Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash, R.I.P. Yo, it's gonna be really awkward if he dies at the top before we record this and it posts. That'd be creepy.
Yeah, that would not be cool.
Anyway, please don't die, Kevin Nash. We love you, Big Sexy. Now I think it's time to get on to Puff Puff Ass, the segment of our show where you listeners send us questions through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com, Insta, Facebook, Twitter, all that shit. At High on Horror 420. Damn, I struggle with that one. I think it's like 2 weeks in a row I've struggled with this segment.
Yeah, I don't know. That line gets you.
I peaked halfway through last season, I think.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
Jason Kershaw from Los Angeles. He wrote in and he asked us, do you feel that Jordan Peele is overrated? Now, I saved this question. This was written to us last season, but I saved this because Hope was being talked about. And I was like, we should wait until the new movie comes out instead of just randomly talking about Jordan Peele. No, I think that he is incredibly talented. He is really good. Like, he is good. Like, it's not just people saying somebody who sucks like Rob Zombie. It's not people backing a director that sucks. Like, he is good. I get why people like him. He has a fresh set of eyes that the genre needs, and he's killing it with original ideas. The problem is, all these fans, like we talked about earlier with that tweet, that don't really know shit about horror movies, hyping his shit up. I would say he's in like the 2 top current directors in the genre right now, him and Scott Derrickson.
It's funny because that is true about, like, he's pulled a lot of people over from the comedy world, which, I mean, is nice, but yeah, you get opinions like that the second time I mention him. But it almost gets to the point where sometimes where you're like, damn, he's an incredible director, but you people are driving me nuts with thinking of like he's like the greatest of all time. Like, I feel like that's like the problem is like those people are just so hyping him, but that you're like, he's good, but like it becomes annoying because of his fan base.
Yeah, exactly. Like Joe Bob said, elevated horror is a word for people who don't like horror movies to describe their like of a horror movie. And I feel that that's a lot of it. I feel that the Jordan Peele fans, a lot of them aren't horror fans. As that would make sense as the dude who sent that tweet, 'cause he sounded like a fucking idiot.
Wow.
You know, like, yeah, but, you know, just obviously a lot of the people that follow him from the comedy world and from other things that he's done, they don't watch horror. They're not horror fans, so they consider the fact that like he does horror movies like, oh my god, like somebody who's actually talented is doing horror. I love it, and he's so good. And it's like, just shut up.
But the
Just
nice thing is that Jordan respects the genre,
Yeah.
and the directors before it. I guess I never really answered it. No, I don't feel he's overrated. I sometimes do think Us is a little overrated. For me, I thought it went a little long. I know a lot of people, that's their favorite.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah.
I like Get Out better. But, I mean, they're both good movies. I mean, I don't really have problems. Yeah, Scott Derrickson's a good one. I mean, I'm going to have to throw my boy Eggers out there.
Eggers.
For another good director.
Ty West.
Ty West.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you heard...
Ty Delaware.
If you heard Scott Derrickson, Robert Eggers, Ty West, and Jordan Peele are working on a project together, like, I wouldn't
I want to
like,
see that anthology horror movie because that's what it's going to be.
I wouldn't...
I've already made it for
I wouldn't think, oh, damn, that's going to suck. I'd be like, damn, that's a lot of, like, brain power. The thing about these directors is that they're knowledgeable. They're not just people trying to make a movie. They're knowledgeable. So, like, every thought, every scene is going to have intent, and you're going to know there's going to be hidden shit in there. And it's one of the... I dig their shit. All those guys. Their name above something will always mean more to me than Eli Roth Presents.
Eli Roth.
Just shooting from the hip here, being straight. Look, I'm not trying to shit on anybody or gain us a bad reputation with nobody like you're trying to do with Rob Zombie, but I gotta call it like it is.
You doing the same thing. You got your own white horse, Rob Zombie.
Eli Roth is my white horse. Fair enough.
Our next question's from Kevin Nash. It's from Steve F on Instagram. And wanted us to name a horror film that has a scene with a song that you love in it. The whole movie of Maximum Overdrive, just all AC/DC.
That's a good one.
No, but one, when you said that, it popped out of my head. American Psycho. When he played Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis in the news. That's a good one. Damn, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a fucking solid answer, actually. I just don't like that. I can't say I don't like Hip to Be Square. But
it's catchy when you got fucking Christian Bale just like dancing around.
I can't say I don't even like the song. I do like the song. It's and of course he's killing Jared Leto, so that makes you happy.
Yeah,
that makes you
helps.
happy. Morbius is just done for. Morbius and Batman. Batman wins with the axe. Anyway, I would have to say for me I know, like you just said, Matt, the whole soundtrack to Maximum Overdrive. I know that there's a lot of movies that I'm not thinking of right now. Like there's whole soundtracks, like the Trick or Treat from 1986. There's a lot of whole soundtracks here. But if we're going off of like a scene with a song in it, it's the after credit sequence of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake from 2004, where you think that they made it, and then you realize that the woods are infested with the zombies. The camera falls Blair Witch style, and Down with the Sickness by Disturbed kicks on. Yeah, that was just like, oh damn, like that's how you end a movie. So that I'm going with that.
That's a good choice as well.
All right, well, I guess let's get to the fucking point of the episode already. Let's talk about A Banquet.
A Banquet is a 2021 British body horror film that premiered at the 2021 Toronto International Film Festival. It's directed by today's guest, Ruth Paxton, and written by Justin Bolt. The film stars Sienna Gilroy as a widowed mother, Holly, whose husband was a famous jazz musician. I think of, what was it, Ron Burgundy? The Jazz Flute?
Yeah.
She has two daughters, Betsy, played by Jessica Alexander, and Isabel, played by Ruby Stokes. Their father died by suicide, and one night Betsy has what she believes to be a supernatural experience that results in her refusing to eat. And one night at a party, she's just on a hot drug binge. And she goes out into the woods, and she has that supernatural experience. Now, her mom, Holly, she's a bit controlling.
I like how you put that. She just has that supernatural experience.
I mean, she had an experience, dog. She was touched by an angel. I don't think it was an angel. Anyway, her mom, Holly, is a bit controlling, to say the least. She's constantly trying to force Betsy to eat, and she isn't appreciating or buying that apocalypse talk. And Betsy says that not eating doesn't hurt her, and she has been chosen. Her mom, like, that scene with the peas, dude, and like I said, this is a body horror, yet like it's a lot of auditory horror as well. Like,
yeah,
just
definitely.
those sounds just like are unsettling. Like, everything's just designed to make you feel like very unsettled. And this is truly a slow burn film. We're both fans of it.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if you didn't like a movie like House of the Devil because it was too slow, this might not be a film that you'll like. I do like that the ending was not spoon-fed to us. It's just, it's a lot of heavy emotions in the film.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of different topics it deals with. For me, the directing and acting, I think, are what really make this film. And again, those noises, like I said, there's like scraping noises, and I just like, I can't stand those sounds. I think the script by Justin could have been maybe a little stronger, but I'd still give this film like an 8.1 out of 10.
Well, Ruth Paxton only directed short films up until this point. You know, she had some success with her short films. Her short film, Paris Sexy, and her short film, Be Still My Beating Heart, which is a fucking fantastic title, by the way. They were both critically acclaimed, and so she took the next step in her evolution as a director and did her first feature-length film, which is A Banquet. And like you said, Justin Bull, who penned the script, he's a writer. He wrote the upcoming Little Rituals, as well as the short Night Night Lily, which he directed as well. And Sienna Gilroy, she's known for her role as Jill Valentine to genre fans from the Resident Evil series. She's a talented actress for sure. She's been in so much. She's in the upcoming Meg 2. You were a fan of the Meg.
Yeah, it was all right.
And that's set to come out next August. I
honestly did not know they were doing a second one.
Yeah, well, but I didn't. I have never seen anything that Jessica Alexander or Ruby Stokes had done outside of this movie. But they did great jobs. I think that all the acting is incredible, and that, like you said, that helps the overall feel of the movie. It impacts the viewer because it's believable due to those performances. Now, my rating of the movie, it's a deep movie that moves you, to feel something even if you don't believe Betsy. That's my opinion anyway. The acting is well done, as I'll say again.
You don't think the apocalypse is happening? You don't think she was chosen?
No, I don't. No. I could see that point of view. That would be cool to believe that, but I just, no, I'm too much of a nihilist to believe something like that.
Yeah, and I don't think she gives a good enough explanation. She's lying.
Well, the acting is well done, as we said, but the pee scene that you had brought up, that's my favorite scene, because that scene is a pivotal scene, because it shows you how desperately Holly is struggling for control and normalcy. It's not that she's trying to be a bitch. You know, Holly lives in denial the whole movie. She's very strict. She won't let Betsy travel for school. She has to keep her family close. You know, and it's like that. It's just she's struggling for normalcy so much that she's like on the breaking point. And that leads me into my second favorite scene, which is where they're at the rink, the ice rink, and Holly is talking to her friend about Betsy going to school and says something along the lines of, "I can't help but wonder what's it all for." And she's talking about like life because she's depressed, like thinking about, you know, just ending it all and just being sad. And her friend thinks that they're still talking about school and starts talking about scholarships, thinking that like she's talking about what's it all for, meaning like what's school all for. And she starts getting all academic about it. And that scene shows you how Holly feels and how like no one understands her, and that is depression, feeling alone. The acting by Sienna Gilroy is stellar. Like I just said, the whole cast does a good job. You rate your movies differently than me. We've gone over this before. You do that 0.1, 0.2. I just rate in 0.5s. I don't do. If I did, I would give.
Amateur score, dog. I don't even remember what I rate them.
I'm about to just fucking go back to 4 stars to keep it simple. But
I've thought about that as well.
But no, 8.1 is fair if you rate it like that. You know, I don't. I do 8. I do 0.5s, halves at a time. So I give it an 8 out of 10 just because I don't do it. But if I did, you know, I would be like if I did your rating, I'd do 8.1, 8.2. But yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Yeah, and this is one of those movies that really divides people due to its style of slow burn and being ambiguous. You know, Christy Lemire from RogerEbert.com wrote, "Director Ruth Paxton puts you on edge from the beginning in A Banquet and holds that unsettling mood throughout because the sound design is so vivid and Paxton's eye for disturbing detail is so creative, it's even more frustrating that the payoff is so unsatisfying." That's a negative review that you said that you've also read some mixed reviews as well, correct?
Yeah, but I feel like it's just a lot of people not understanding what the movie's about.
Exactly. Like, that's why I'm bringing it up. Exactly.
Like that one right there. Like we talked about, the ending is supposed to be ambiguous. There's not supposed to be closure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's why these types of movies get these types of reviews, because people just don't understand the way to read them. That's just the truth of it. And but here's a more favorable. I agree with this one. This is from Peter Bradshaw, and he wrote, "Is Betsy a vampiric demon, secretly consuming her family's psychic happiness to keep her own weight up?" I liked that theory, by the way. "Or is there another more rational explanation connected with Holly's relationship with food and with her mother? Paxton's movie sketches out the sinister dread just under the happy family surface. She is an expert control of her film, achieving her effects with economy and force. It really is unnerving." End quote. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, there was something I meant to bring up, and when you were talking about, you know, her mother's just trying to keep everything together. That's part of the problem, is she's trying to control everything. Like, she's just trying to make her kid eat, but she doesn't really ever, like, sit down and be like, what's wrong?
It's like she's trying to live in denial, like kind of ignore it.
You're just saying that it's this apocalypse, but she doesn't, like, really try to really get to the root.
That's a very good point.
She just thinks she's like mentally ill and just takes her to doctors. Right.
Yeah. I never really thought of that. That's a really good perspective. Like, and I'm sure that there's some water to that. It's she's more concerned with like, oh no, this isn't happening.
It's more about control.
It's more about let's be normal. Let's be normal.
She's not
this
doing
isn't
it to be
happening,
mean with the control. She's just trying to keep everything together, but she's trying to do it.
Her husband just killed himself. She can't deal with the fact that her daughter might be going through some shit like this. So it's just, let's get back to normal. This isn't happening, but you can't ignore that shit. But no, I like metaphors and body horror, and I like movies that make you think. And quite frankly, this is a movie that makes you think. It makes you ponder. Like, after the movie ended, I sat there and thought for a few minutes what my theories were, if I believed it or not. And I like this movie. I like movies that make you think. You know, it's not a feel-good Marvel movie. You know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but just like I said, this has that Midsummer type of feel to it where you almost don't know how you should feel once it ends. And I like that. I like that it's not, like you said, spoon-fed to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll about do it for talking about A Banquet. Now let's get the director on herself and let's talk to Ruth Paxton.
Our guest today is our first guest from the UK. She's a writer and director, and she's here to talk with us about her film A Banquet, starring Sienna Gilroy, Jessica Alexander, and Ruby Stokes, now streaming on Shudder. Welcome, Ruth Paxton. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll start I wanted to start off with, we're a show about, cannabis and horror. So I just wanted to know, do you partake in the devil's lettuce?
I don't, but not for any kind of judgment. I never, as a young person, I would have loved to have gotten more into it, but it didn't agree with me. I used to whitey all the time. My brother smoked so much that the house was filled with a thick smoke. So I feel like I got secondhand high a lot of the time. But I do use CBD oil now. So I like that. Okay. But no, I haven't. It's never, I wish that it agreed with me more, because I could definitely get into it. But not day to day, no.
Okay. Well, what about edibles? Do you do edibles?
I have done in the past, and I haven't recently, but I would do. That's a good point.
Okay, well, tell us about yourself. How and why did you get into filmmaking?
Well, I mean, it's I don't know. It's not like a straight story, is it? I came, I suppose, from a family that watched a lot of films. And I think that at the time I thought it was normal, but in retrospect, I can see that we watched a lot of films and we were constantly at the cinema. And so it was just a big part of how I related to my family and my friends, was watching movies. And so that was the love of movies was there from very young. And then I guess I knew I was going to be creative in some way. I was artistic. I was very creative at school, both like making drawings and paintings, but also in writing and creative writing. And I think I kind of talk about when I saw Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice, like the work of Tim Burton, basically that sort of 80s, 90s work, as being the point where I recognized a director having a voice and being singular. And I think that was when I started to think, ooh, I think I want to make films, and I think I want to make my kind of films. But it's a bit of a mishmash, because I did go to art school. I did film there, but I also, it wasn't a very practical film course. It was definitely, more kind of self-led stuff. But yeah, I mean, I kind of joke. I kind of always say that I've been a storyteller since I was a kid. I needed to be at the center of things and understand, what was going on with people and why people did what they did. And I was even out the other night for a drink with my partner, and there was a table behind us where a family were having a fight, and I just couldn't keep my eyes off it. That was the evening for me, was just trying to work out what was going on with these people. So I've been like that since I was a kid, really.
So that's great. Making movies kind of happened like organically for you. There wasn't really a path that you paved for yourself there. Would you say that there are any influences you have, like film-wise? Like, did David Cronenberg have any, like, John Carpenter, anybody like that? Anybody from the horror genre or not horror genre maybe impact you?
Both. I mean, horror-wise, of course, Cronenberg. And actually, it's a strange one, but Crash was a big movie for me when I was young. I saw it probably way earlier than I should have, and it had a very profound impact on me, that movie. So that film for sure. But I also, I suppose I'm not going to remember the directors' names, but like I suppose the films of like Leprechaun and Troll and these kind of, I don't know if they're 80s, 90s horrors. I can't, like Pet Sematary, that kind of Stephen King era of horror was what I grew up on as a teenager, for sure. And then I think what I realized recently was that I maybe had discounted for a while, but I think probably the most meaningful horror films I saw and watched over and over again were the Alien series. I don't know if I would have thought of those as a horror film before, but I was thinking recently, as I was talking a bit about body horror and stuff, how really they are. And so again, my brother and I, big movie fans, and, consumed a lot of R-rated stuff when we were very young. Definitely, I think we could put on a play of Alien or Predator for you if you wanted. We watched it so many times. But nowadays, I mean, for me, biggest influence on A Banquet and on so much of the work that I write and want to make is The Shining. It's probably my favorite horror. Probably. I don't like to commit to things, but that I love. And then, I think probably slightly more maybe art house horror, like things done by Gaspar Noé, Lars von Trier. So they're not marketed necessarily as horror films, but for me, I think they're pretty fucking horrific films to watch and to experience. They're sort of physical films.
Right. Well, horror, attracts different people for different reasons. And you just said, that you like art. So it makes sense, art house type of horror would be the type of horror that would attract you. Everything, different strokes for different folks. There's nothing wrong with that. I wanted to ask you while we're here, before we move on, Alien or Aliens? You can't bring up the Alien series and
Aliens.
not. And, okay, yes. John, what do you think?
I'm
Aliens.
I'm Alien.
You're Alien?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we always have this debate between aliens and aliens. So I got one on my side.
Aliens definitely saw more times. But actually, and this is maybe a bit controversial, I'm a huge fan of Alien Resurrection by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I think, it's obviously a very different take, but it's properly body horror. I love it. I think Sigourney Weaver's role in that film and the relationship with Winona Ryder, I think, for me, it's one of my favorites as well.
I'm not a big fan of that film, but I think that it's one of those things kind of for like Rob Zombie's Halloween for me, where like if it wasn't supposed to be Halloween, I'd like it. So I feel like if it wasn't like the fourth Alien movie and just like a monster movie in space, I probably would like Resurrection more, but I just always kind of compare it to its predecessors, and it's going to always kind of fall short, when you do that. But yeah,
I get that. I get that.
Well, into your career here, you directed short films until A Banquet, and I wanted to know, why did you decide to make the horror picture, like the horror movie? Or you can argue if it's horror or not. That's kind of debatable. But why did you decide to make this your first feature length film? Of all the things you've done, what made you say, "Hey, this is the one I want to make a full movie of"?
I think that there's a very honest answer to that, which is it was the one I was allowed to do. It became possible to make that film, and why wouldn't I do that? It's such a tough industry that we work in that, if you get any kind of opportunity, you're kind of stupid not to grab it. I think that, my short films have always been programmed in horror programs or more abstract programs, because they don't quite sit neatly in a category. They're usually films that explore the darker parts of our psychology, and so they fit into what we would call psychological horror or thriller or whatever. And that's the kind of horror I probably do like very best of all. But I suppose I didn't always see myself as being a director of horror. I just was telling stories about stuff I thought was really fucking important or really scary. And I'm a person who's got quite severe mental health issues, which I'm medicated for, but at times haven't been. And for me, that's the scariest experience of my life, is kind of the prospect of losing my shit. So that's kind of what I try to channel into the work I make. But A Banquet came about because I was having a meeting with a producer about projects I might want to work on. And normally I'm a writer of what I do. But she told me about this script by Justin Bull. He's an American writing in Boston. And it sounded amazing. It sounded like something I could have written. And it ticked so many boxes. And I read it really quickly, and I fucking loved it. And I saw a way to make it my kind of a horror film. I think there's definitely a version of it that would please a really hungry horror audience in a different way. I think, there was a way to make a more commercial film with this, but my route into it was to go, I suppose, more under the surface and to be more, tuned into the horror at the heart of the family's disintegration. That was where I thought I could flex my muscles. And, I think that it's definitely, I'm totally conscious that for some people it's really hit or miss, basically, especially for hardcore horror fans. It's like there's people watching it who are like, that was boring, basically. And I get that. I think if you're going in and expecting something, with lots of jump scares and lots of gore and terror, I think you will be disappointed, because it's basically just people talking. But for me, what I was trying to harness was that sense of anxiety and dread that is present in something like The Shining, something that's really just foreboding and terrifying, like, the prospect of. So I suppose that's kind of the reason why I did it. But also, the practical reason why I did it is because I think the industry in the UK works quite differently to America, and you come up through government-funded sources of financing, and it's not so easy to get independent films off the ground any other way. And if you can, if something can, comes to fruition, as I said before, it would be really dumb not to do it. But it's been an interesting experience because I think as a first-time feature maker, because the film was put out there as kind of balls out horror, it's been critiqued in a way that I think is different to a lot of my contemporaries who are making horror as a who are making first-time features. Kind of get, they kind of get, I suppose, critiqued on under the umbrella of being that first-time feature. And I'm not sure that everybody that would watch this film would know it was a first-time feature, just because it's not necessarily marketed as a Ruth Paxton film or whatever, and that's kind of how they would do it in the UK. But that's just my theory. I don't, it doesn't mean I'm right.
And what attracted you to the horror genre? And I have to say, I'm a big Shining fan too. That was one of the movies that really got me into horror. So I definitely feel your love of The Shining.
Cool. Yeah, it's also a film that I can watch again and again and again and find new things to enjoy about it. And I love is it 237, the documentary, Room 237?
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
I think I often get the number wrong. But yeah, I love that. I love all the kind of lore around it as well, even though I don't think he was very nice to work for, Kubrick. But, I don't know, it was a different time. But I think, the horror genre for me, like I like watching all kinds of films. I really do. I particularly like watching, certain kinds of subgenre in horror. Like my brother, for example, he's a huge horror aficionado. He's a filmmaker as well. And he loves zombie movies, and he loves John Carter and, The Thing and all those kind of, classics. And they weren't maybe the ones that did it so much for me. I think, I'm probably less monster driven. Although having said that, I love a creature feature. And I think,
Right.
I had a discussion with somebody the other day about how Jaws is a horror. And, that would be the film probably as a kid that scared the shit out of me the most and made me not want to go in the sea in Scotland, really convinced there could be a great white in there. So, I think it's really quite a flexible term. And that's what I love about horror is that there are so many facets to it as a genre. And I think maybe that's something that draws me to it, is just that there's, my film, I think, the overall tag or whatever that, marketing folk like to give it is that it's a psychological horror. But there's definitely elements of biological horror and body horror and gore in there,
Body horror,
as well as, as well as other sort of maybe slightly more, I don't know, tropes from, maybe teen horror flicks, that kind of thing. So I think it's nice that you can play with all the tropes.
Yeah, definitely, and it's really interesting hearing your journey on how A Banquet came about and how you were using it to just kind of like purge like this horror that you wanted to, I guess, get out, if that's the way to put it. And I just you had Sienna Gilroy, Jessica Alexander, and Ruby Stokes. How was it directing a cast like that? Was it intimidating? Having like really credible actors on set like that, like for a first feature, or did you handle it like a pro?
I would because a lot of what I deal with is anxiety. My kind of my kind of go-to is that I'm not good enough to do something, or I'm scared of doing something. But actually, I'm not frightened of working with actors. It's the one thing I'm quite confident about. And so I cast people that were nice people. I like to do that. It sounds like a stupid thing, but I'll cast people that are nice people that I want to work with, that I want to spend this time with. And so, it's not to say that you don't have clashes of opinion at times, but there's never any discomfort. And I think, I have to, as a director, just believe and behave as though I'm an equal to these people. Otherwise, what's the point? They're not going to respect me. So I think, that wasn't a fear. Maybe having Lindsay Duncan on set, who plays Granny, was a wee bit intimidating just because I love her so fucking much, you know, and it was a big surprise that she wanted to do it. And it was just, I think everybody was very much in awe of her when she was around. And I would say she's one of the loveliest people I've ever met. So there's no need to be nervous of her. But I think I kind of learned a while ago that like, you just got to remember that everybody is human. Sounds really cheesy, but like, you know, everybody's scared essentially, you know, most of the time. And if you recognize that and you're just nice to people and you're just honest about where your strengths and weaknesses are as a filmmaker, I think you can get by. For me, what's more intimidating is the technical side of things and working with crew. I'm not a technical director, so I don't, you know, have a need to look through the lens and, you know, have an opinion about the lighting or, you know, in the way that a lot of directors do. I have a very, very collaborative relationship with my director of photography, but we mostly talk about feelings and how to put feelings on screen or how to create an atmosphere on screen rather than talking about what equipment we're going to use or how we're going to technically achieve it. So that always is a bit what's the word? I've lost my word. You know, intimidating. Yeah, exactly. For me, you know, it's I had to get my head around how we would work with practical effects and SFX. I'd never really done that before. So that kind of part of it is, and yeah, just how you would put together shots that were going to be constructed in post, really, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm getting there. I'll continue to learn. I think all directors just are constantly learning. But I have to say, the actors were a pleasure. And the only thing that was maybe slightly scary about working with them was that I hadn't met the majority of them before they came to set because we cast during COVID. And so it was all remote auditions, all remote tapes and callbacks. And Sienna was the only actor that I met prior to lockdown. And after that, it was just guessing digitally if we would all get on, really.
And as you said, this was the first time you've directed somebody else's script. And I'd read that you said it was really rewarding and it forced you to analyze someone else's writing. Do you still prefer writing your own stuff or do you like directing other people's stuff?
Both. So you're absolutely right. Justin taught me a lot. He's a very prolific writer. He's also much stronger on sort of structure and form than I am. So, you know, I definitely got like a schooling from going through his work and collaborating with him. But at the same time, I needed to get my fingers into it at some point because that's just my nature, is to want to go, well, I'm going to direct this, so I have to make it my way. And if, you know, after a point we weren't necessarily getting it to where I wanted it to be, it was like I was desperate to do my own drafts on it. And I think that that'll always be the case. But basically I'm a really slow writer, and it's something that I've felt shit about in the past because I can just see, you know, my brother's a writer. So many of my friends are filmmakers. I can literally see how fast they're working compared with me. And it takes a lot. I find it like, I suppose going back to that self-doubt that I've spoken about before, it's like sitting down and, you know, making something out of nothing is quite challenging in itself, but especially when there's a part of you that thinks, is it actually any fucking good? I don't know. So I know that's similar for most writers, but it's for me, I just find it quite a physical task having to write. So I definitely would see my future as being a balance of writing, because I so love, you know, I love when I've written something I think's good, but also in directing other people's writing. And I think that's changed. You know, I think ego-wise, when I was younger, I would have not wanted to direct other people's writing. And I think that's partly because I was schooled to think, you know, that I wanted to be an auteur. And I think that's fine if that's what you want to be, but I think it's a hard way to earn a living. So it's like, you know, you want to be able to do it all. And I think, that's another reason why it's good for me to be across things as a director and writer-director, is just because if I was only writing my own material, I think I would make films every fucking 5 years or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from when you're talking about your self-doubt. And I have the same exact type of thing. I'm learning to be a machine operator at my job right now, and it's like all this shit's in front of me that I'm supposed to learn. I'm doubting myself along the way. So I understand what you're going through and how you feel, but you got to push yourself. You got to just, it's literally all in your head. That's what I have to tell myself. You just push forward.
Exactly.
So stay busy, keep it up. Like we definitely want to see more movies from you. That's for sure. And
oh well, that's nice. Thank you.
well, I've said this in past episodes, and I mean this. Like that, usually when a man writes female characters and their dialogue, you can tell that it's written by a guy. Like I was raised by my mom and sister, so like I was raised by women, and it's kind of like nails on a chalkboard when I hear women talking in a movie, and I'm like, it's just not how girls talk, even when they're in the bathroom putting their makeup on. However, your movie comes off genuine. So I just wanted to know, did anybody change their lines, or did you follow the script written by Justin exactly? Like, was his dialogue just that on point?
Well, I suppose I don't want to take anything away from Justin, because I think his, rendering of the female characters was great to begin with. But I did write the latter passes, so I did write the dialogue, and I wrote, I suppose what you hear. I mean, for me, I'm very fluid on set with how I like to work. So when we do a line reading, if what I've written doesn't sound right, I'm very keen for us to find what does. I don't force. The only time I might force a line is if it was just crucial to get a particular piece of information across or something. And I've worked in TV where, you can't change a line without phoning 5 fucking executives before they'll say yes. So there is something really liberating about being on set and, an actor going, it just doesn't sound right. And if it doesn't sound right, they won't deliver it well. It won't come over as truthful. So we're always reshaping the dialogue as we're going. But I did the dialogue partly because I really like writing dialogue, but also because the film was relocated from America to the UK. So when it came to me, it was set in Concord, and we pitched for it with the intention to shoot there, but with the budget demands, we thought that it made more sense to shoot it in the UK, basically, and to relocate it. So that was something that, Justin could only, do to an extent, because he doesn't live there. You know what I mean? So I kind of had more of a cultural impression. Like there would definitely be a couple of passes I did that were more about giving it a sensibility for the UK and, for the family that then became quite a different family unit to who had been the family unit in America, which was a more middle class, McMansion, super white, super privileged, family. And that's not to say that's not reflected in the Banquet that you see now, but it's just the same kind of family didn't quite translate here. So that's how Holly's family came to be.
And what was it that attracted you to the project?
Well, I think that probably there was a scene. The truth is, there was a scene that just blew my mind, and it's the one where she won't eat her dinner. She won't eat the peas. And I just knew I could I knew I could shoot the shit out of that scene and make it really powerful. And I was just so drawn to like the power dynamic of what was going on there, and with the younger sister as the bystander, and just I knew I could make that feel toxic. So that was one of the reasons. I loved what was going on between the sort of intergenerational relationships between the women and the role of mother and daughter. I think that I could, in some ways, relate to what was going on. I always say that, and then I have to tell my mum, I've done this podcast that makes it sound like I'm slagging you off, but I'm not. It's like we all have complicated relationships with our mums, I think. Oh, of course. And it's true, it's all their fault. No, I'm joking. I too had, I hadn't gone through a period of disordered eating. I think majority of women do have difficulty with food and their relationships with their body, but not everybody has a kind of mental illness around it. And I definitely did. I sort of stopped eating for 2 years, lost a massive amount of weight. And it was all a kind of byproduct of the anxiety that was going untreated at the time. But what was really, really impactful to me was how Justin had drawn, yeah, the ripple effect of what not eating did to the family. And I knew that. I had seen that. I had seen it tear my family up, and, you know, having staged interventions about why I wouldn't eat and all that shit. So, you know, that side of it was very, very familiar. And then I think the other thing is that for me, when I was a kid, one of the things that scared me the most was not being believed. The idea that somebody wouldn't believe me. And I think there was a period where there was a weird period I had where I wouldn't go to school, and my parents couldn't get out of me why. And I don't really know if I could tell you why, but I didn't want to go. And I used to say I had a sore tummy, and it resulted in loads of visits to doctors and, you know, the hospital. And there was nothing wrong with my stomach, but I obviously had some form of anxiety that felt like there was something wrong with my stomach. And I understood the beginnings of what it was to not be believed, like I was making it up. And that scared the fucking crap out of me. The idea that, like, you could literally get lost inside your own mind. And so for me, you know, Betsy's belief, whether, you know, it's true or not, is kind of irrelevant in a way. But the idea that, you know, that you could be disbelieved when you believe so strongly in something is really compelling. And I think, you know, it's something that's almost too big for the film, and, you know, is something I would maybe continue to kind of noodle on in other films. But yeah, I think I'm not religious, so I couldn't relate to, like, you know, God or, you know, something even spiritual. You know, I mean, I like to think, you know, the universe is a thing or whatever, but I don't honestly believe in, like, putting shit out there and getting it back. I suppose I believe in being nice and kind and that kind of thing, but I'm not sure we can affect things that way. But I have had that experience of being so doggedly committed to something, as in not eating, that the fear that something bad would happen if I did. And that's what anorexia is, and that's what you know, what Betsy's experiencing, whether it's a spiritual or a physical thing, is you know, not what the film's there to say. So sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but I don't even remember what you asked me, but you got loads of words there.
No, that was a very good answer. And the fact that it was John asked that question, that was a very good question, because it actually does, your answer kind of makes it, you know, you related to the material, and that's why you were drawn to doing it, and that's why it came out so well. So as you were just talking about, though, this is a serious movie, you know, like you were just saying, like heavy with emotion, themes of grief, suicide, anorexia, angst, even divine intervention. I know you're not religious, but that could be an arguable point, divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what was it like on set? You know, like, was it all fun and games when the camera wasn't rolling, or was it very serious because the film is serious?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, I think what was more predominant for us during filming was having to cater to COVID restrictions, and that being brand new. So we were one of the first productions to go after the second lockdown in the UK. And it meant that, you know, I was making a film in a way that I'd never made one before, like with all this distancing and, you know, protective measures and masks. And, you know, so all of that was kind of more dominant in a way. It wasn't dour on set, absolutely not. But I do like to kind of have, when I'm making work, I do kind of, you know, I think as the director, you set the tone on set, and mine is, you know, generally like calm. That's what I would say. So it's not that it's like weighted with like, oh, we mustn't talk, but I do like a state of calm because I don't like to be stressed, basically. And, you know, I think films I can't work that way. So, you know, and you have to just keep some sets you're on. It's almost like you're saving the world, the way people deal with it. And you're making a film that some people might like, some people might not. It's not that big a deal. And you've got to respect the money that's going into it and the efforts of everybody, which of course I inherently do, but it's a film. It's, you know, and everybody's health is much more important than that. And so for me, the calm is just because I think you make better work that way. But so, yeah, I wouldn't want loads of people giggling in the corner or whatever, but I kind of just trust the people around me to know when it's okay to have, you know, to let go a bit, and then other times when it's not. And a lot of that, you know, happens because they'll take their cue from you. So, you know, I mean, I'm also crazy introverted. So for me, being on set is quite hard work just because it's people, and I'm really hermity.
I understand.
So so I would be, on lunch breaks, I'm having lunch by myself because I just need time to recharge. It's not about not loving the people I work with, because I work with some of my best friends who I love. It's just that I literally need that time to recharge. So yeah, so it's I think it wasn't as intense as you might think it could have been because of the content. No, it really wasn't. It was pretty loving and relaxed and chill.
Okay. Well, it's funny though. You just cracked me up with what you said though, because I literally eat my lunch in my car every day. Everybody eats in the cafeteria. I go out to my car. I walk 5 minutes through the parking lot just to sit in my car and lose time on my lunch just so I can eat away from people. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with being an introvert. And it's not like you said. It's not to be rude, but it's like, I'm around you guys for 11 hours a day. I just I need 30 minutes alone. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Even if I'm sleeping.
Exactly.
Watching TV, whatever.
And I couldn't do, the other thing I couldn't do was, like, on the weekends, I couldn't hang out with people. I mean, there was slightly, the reason for that was because, we were asking the crew not to socialize, because obviously at that time, COVID was still rife. I mean, it is still rife, don't get me wrong, but like, we couldn't afford to ask our crew to quarantine. It just wasn't possible. So all we could do was ask, like, please, can you be careful at the weekend and not get COVID and bring it to set, that kind of thing. But even if we'd had more freedom, I just spent Saturday, Sunday, like, lying on a fucking couch, like, revving up for the week that was coming, because I'm not that social. So I was doing more socializing on this film than I would do in a year. But no, it was great. And the thing is that, like, I worked with people that understood that about me, and the producer that I worked with understood that very well about me. So I didn't feel like a weirdo, and I didn't feel like I was being rude or anything like that. I think, that was all very well handled. But that comes from years of getting to know yourself. Like, I couldn't have been as confident in sticking to my guns 10 years ago. That wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, I think now I'm much better at saying this is what I need in order to do a good job, and not be embarrassed about it.
Yeah, exactly. Part of handling it is knowing what you need to control it. So did you or any actors get emotional while you were filming any scenes, like maybe even towards the end?
Yes.
I feel like this might be a movie where, once you guys hit cut, there might have been some tears shed.
Definitely. I mean, I am very highly emotional. So every film I have ever made, I cry on, even if it's not sad. I'm like, I just get really overwhelmed with, like, what people give, and I think that's what I felt particularly of Sienna, and in her very obvious, very emotional scene at the end, like, just what she gave to it was, I was so grateful to that, for her, because she was, like, physically overwrought. And the same with Jessica. Jessica went, like, I think, this was at the time, this was her first feature. She's since made quite a few, but at the time this was, and she did things that she maybe will learn, I don't know. She gave me gifts that she maybe won't give as readily as her career goes on. She really threw her body into it. She really, screamed. She gave, she kind of gave herself bruises. She threw herself around, which, I couldn't ask of her, but I certainly wasn't going to say, I wasn't going to turn down, let's say. If you want to bleed for me, that's cool, but I'm not asking you to. So, yeah, she, she and Sienna were just incredibly, like, generous with their bodies, basically. So I think, the scene, there was the scene where, at the end, I suppose the sort of culminating of the film, that was, actually, I didn't cry at that. I was just really highly strung, I remember, because you just knew with that, you can't ask Sienna to do that over and over again. It's just not possible to give that level, like, over and over again. It's just going to decrease. So I remember being really stressed, knowing I maybe had like 2-3 takes of it. And I think I kind of had a headache from being tense. I think there was scenes, I think the scene where they're in the bed and they're thrashing around in the bed, I was quite emotional, just because Jessica was so yeah, she just went above and beyond with it. I think people in the room were actually quite frightened by what she was doing, which was excellent, But yeah, I don't have a clear memory of crying, but I will have done, because as I say, I cry quite a lot.
And you had said very much that this is a body horror type of movie. Were there any influences from those types of movies that you took directly? And I have to say, those scraping sounds in the movie were so unsettling.
That's good. I mean, I think, that would be something, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, I think what's paramount with horror is sound. I think it's the sound that's scary, really, most of the time, or that really lands the punch. And I mean, well, for example, like the body horror, I mean, it's interesting because I just spoke on a panel about body horror, and it kind of occurred to me that, like, in many ways, there isn't. The body horror in my film is really all about the food, and therefore, is it body horror or is it more biological horror? Obviously, we're talking about Betsy's body as a vessel, so there's something to talk about when it comes to the horror of what she's doing to her body. But in a way, it's more about the sort of grotesqueness of food, and the quality of food is something that lives and dies. That's something I was interested in. I mean, when it comes to the futakuchi onna, so the mouth, for that, that is Japanese folklore. That's something that Justin knew about and wrote into the script. But originally it was described as much more demonic, and there was kind of eyes involved, and it was a horizontal mouth. And I knew that I wanted to try and do something very different, and that I wanted it to be more like tumorous, and like it was of Betsy, that it was, rather than being a monster stuck onto her, it was like a part of her. And so I was looking at lots of like medical imagery for that, and like really, really gross, disgusting stuff that you can't not look at, but is gross to look at. And that's something I do. That's something I have a problem with. And so a lot of, I don't know if you know Chris Cunningham's videos, he did a lot of Aphex Twins videos. And he made a really weird video called Rubber Johnny, probably in the 2000s. Anyway, that was a strong influence, and Suspiria was a really strong, actually the new one with Luca Guadagnino with the, the dancing scene where, her body snaps, basically. All that stuff was strong references. And then actually Alien Resurrection was a really big, that's in all my imagery for this film, just more because of the failed clones and that kind of thing. That was the point of reference for the futakuchi. And I'm trying to think, there will be other references in there that would be horror references, but I guess I don't know, can't think of anything. I was in pitching it, I was definitely talking about Ari Aster's work and Robert Eggers' work as kind of transcendental contemporary folk horror, and they definitely are. But I think, another huge influence for me would be like Antichrist, Lars von Trier. So it's a bit of a mishmash, really.
Yeah, Antichrist is a good movie. I'm a huge fan of Eggers' work. I wanted to say there's a lot of extreme close-ups in the movie. Was that something that was in the script, or was that something that you pushed for?
That's a me thing, I think. That's a me and David, my cinematographer, thing. We always go in really close on detail and texture. And definitely when I read the script, that was how I saw it. It's an exaggerated perspective, obviously. It would be, for me, it would link back to like maybe my experience of being, having heightened anxiety and being really provoked by sounds, or really provoked by, extreme anything, extreme smells, extreme, tastes. It was, I think I remember reading, I don't know what book, one of these filmmaking books, and somebody saying that it's, in directing, it's really smart to keep close to the five senses, because, it's something that the majority of us have possession of and can relate to. We understand this, what the same thing smells like and tastes like and all that kind of thing. Obviously, I'm being very broad, but what I'm getting at. And so I think that's something I've always thought about when I make my films, is like, to have a really sensory experience, not just a visual one, like, to try and get people to understand what things might feel like and taste like and sound like in the room, that kind of thing. And I think that just goes to getting into the head of the character. And that's certainly what's happening for Betsy is, you know, when she sees that bacon, that's how she sees the bacon. That's her experience of the bacon.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very clever. Before I move forward with my questions about A Banquet, I didn't want to interrupt you and John, but you had brought up how you said sound is very like important to horror films, and I wanted to ask you: have you seen Barbarian Sound Studio?
Yes, I have. So I love Peter Strickland, and I love him so much that I stole his editor. So he works with makes work out of Hungary, and his editor is a Hungarian guy called Matthias Fekete, and I hooked him in to do my last short film, Be Still My Beating Heart, which is set in a morgue, and since then have sort of, you know, formed a connection with Peter, and we're recommending lots of crew to each other at the moment. But yes, I have seen that film and it's epic. And I haven't seen his new one, Flux Gourmet, but that's all about creating kind of opera out of weird sounds to do with food. So it's going to be really exciting. And Matthias edited that as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. But Barbarian Sound Studio, when you said you liked artsy movies and you brought up sound, I was like, that's definitely a movie that needs to get brought up because it's such a clever film. You're watching a guy in the sound studio making the sound effects for a horror film, but you never see the horror film. It's just so brilliant, you know? And I'm like, I don't get to really bring that up to a lot of people.
It's genius.
So it's kind of perfect to bring it up now.
Yeah, you're right. It's a genius example. But I would say as well, like, you know, just kind of circling back to talking about Cronenberg, like my memories of the horror in his films are all associated with sound. So like Crash, for example, while that's a really textural film and quite explicit in what the themes are to do with.
Right.
My memory of it are the sounds. Like there's a bit where they go through a car wash and it's so fucking intense. And it's the same with like Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. It's like the sound of that film is what is like penetrating and haunting and kind of like mesmerizing about it. So as much as I love imagery, and that's maybe my first love of cinema or whatever, I absolutely love the sound design, and I love being creative with that and what good sound designers can do and you know, propose for you. I think it's really exciting collaborative process.
Well, in A Banquet's final moments, they're extremely emotional, and they sit with you after watching it. They sat with me. You know, that's just one of those movies where you kind of sit there after it's over, kind of contemplating. And I want to know, like, will you ever say your opinion on the ending of the film, how it ends ambiguously with Holly? Do you have answers in your own head, or do you just not care and there's no answers and you're not telling nobody?
No, I definitely do. So I think, you know, I've got a few different opinions on this. I can tell you that when I read the script, I needed to believe that Betsy was telling the truth in order for all of that pain and misery to have been worth it. So for me, she's absolutely telling the truth. And this is the end of the world. But I like that it can be interpreted in different ways. And people have interpreted it in more different ways than I even thought possible. But I think the other thing is that, you know, you need as a director to know, this is my opinion, because there's loads of people that would disagree, but I think you need to know what the fuck's going on. Like, even if you don't tell your audience that, it's like, I remember doing a session with some students, and they were doing, like, I do a bit of like associate lecturing and mentoring and stuff for the cash. And I learn a lot from doing it, from working with students, because you have to, if you're teaching, you have to be able to explain why you think a thing, you know, because like if you're just doing it, you just do it. But if somebody's like, well, why do you do that? You're like, oh, why do I do that? And you have to kind of unpack it and address it. And I remember doing a lesson with these students that were setting up a short film where basically a character opens a box and has a strong reaction to what's in the box, but we don't see what's in the box. You know, it's that MacGuffin or whatever.
Right.
But I asked the director, but what's in the box? What's in the box? And he's like, well, we don't know. And I'm like, well, how does the actor know what to react to? And they're like, because they're just, they're imagining something. And it was like, I was really needling him and I was really pushing him. But, even if what that actor sees in the box isn't what's actually in the box, it just gets that reaction. That's fine. But there needs to be something theoretically in the fucking box, So for me to direct the ending of this, it needed to be that for Sienna, you were staring at the sky, it is opening up and you were burning, and that's what you were feeling, and you were totally recognizing that Betsy was telling the truth and that you are this first star or whatever. And I think you kind of I don't think you can sit on the fence with these things and get a truthful performance. Having said that, an actor will go to wherever they need to go to make something real. So, you might give a bit of direction, and for them what actually works is thinking the complete opposite, and it doesn't fucking matter. It's about getting the result, really. But I think just like, they don't know, the cast don't know they're in a horror film. They don't think they're in a film. They think this is life. And I think you've got to make things as real and tangible for people as you possibly can. So yeah, on a day, you can't direct with like an abstract like that, I don't think. But also for me, I needed the journey that Holly goes on and the suffering to be meaningful, and for it to be that, yeah, there's an apocalypse.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's great to know and to hear. And I wanted to know, I wanted to ask you this one. Back in the day, there used to not be a lot of females making genre pictures, but now you have Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook, Prano Bailey Bond, who did Censor, Rose Glass, who did St. Maud, Nia DaCosta, who did Candyman, and there's more names I could mention.
Jill Gavarzian,
yes. And how does it feel to be amongst be a female director right now in the heart of females making their mark on the industry?
Well, I think I'm trying to give a positive answer to this. I think the thing is that it feels annoying, actually, because it's, like, I don't think of myself as a female director. I'm a director, and it's tiresome in a way to be constantly referred to that way. I know that Prano, who's a good friend of mine, she recently did an article in Sight and Sound, which is a really famous British film magazine, and it was like, the scariest thing about working in horror is being asked what it is to be a woman in the genre. It was just very funny. It's very truthful.
I'm sorry for asking.
No, this is the thing. I don't want to be a dick about it. And I'm not getting at you. It's just, I don't actually have an answer to the question. Do you know what I mean? Not really, because I don't know what it is. I suppose there's something great about there being a trend, because it meant I got to make my movie, but then it gets compared constantly to other women's movies in a way that men making horror wouldn't. I think ultimately it's a good thing.
Makes sense.
I think it is a good thing, but I don't know. I think I just think it's a sign of women being allowed to tell stories. And the thing about horror films is they're a really great way to tell stories on a low budget. And they're a really great way to sort of Trojan horse serious subject matters into commercial fare. And I think, we all, maybe touching on what I said earlier, I want to make good movies, but I also want to live and be able to afford to live. And that's not making like really abstract art films, unfortunately. So, horror is quite a good cross junction for, getting your voice and style and aesthetic in there while also appealing to a huge audience. And I think that's what I've learned in the distribution of A Banquet, because obviously this is my first rodeo. I've never made a film that's had this kind of exposure before. Is what I'm kind of been impressed by is just how vast an audience for horror there is, and it's incredible. I don't think there's any other genre that has as many podcasts and enthusiasts and impassioned people, drawn to it and supporting it. And that's been an amazing thing, but it also means that your horror film is really put out to pasture. It's definitely a baptism by fire, but yeah.
And the film first debuted at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. And I always like to ask our guests, did you enjoy the festival? Because there's so many different answers we get on that. But did you enjoy your experience at the film festival?
Well, I suppose the ironic answer is that I did, because it was a very streamlined festival. So it was, it just wasn't as eventful as it would normally be, because it was the first one post-pandemic. So it was quite contained, and there wasn't big parties and stuff that I had to bow out of all the time. I loved going to Toronto. I'd been there 10 years previously as part of the Talent Lab, so it was really sweet to go back. And I was so grateful to be in the Discovery program, and it was really, really special. But actually, I had a really quite chill time there, not doing big festival things. I'm not a big joiner-inner. I'm not like, I will, if I have the great fortune of being taken to a festival, I will do the bare minimum to be, thankful and grateful for the attendance. But I fucking hate networking, and I'm not going to do it if I don't have to. I would much rather see the city, or see films. So I did enjoy it, but I'm conscious it was a slightly atypical premiere. And having said that, though, I got to go. I got to be physically at the premiere, whereas Prano, for example, all of her experience was done online, was virtual, and so I was really lucky to be able to attend.
Did you feel any nerves showing your movie?
Yeah, I did, because I knew that. I didn't on the night itself particularly, because I had drunk quite a bit, so that assuaged the nerves. But what was different was that IFC, who were promoting the film and distributing it, obviously they had generated some press in advance, but obviously it was people who liked the film, so they were saying nice things about it. The minute that it was screened, I knew that it would be open to criticism from people that didn't like it. And so I know that, the night that it was premiered, we were taken for dinner. That was quite nice. And then we went to the screening. I did actually watch it, and then did a kind of brief Q&A. And then we went and had margaritas, me and my friend. Like, it was really low key. But I went back to the hotel room and I read a review, and it was one of the most scathing reviews the film had got. This person basically hated me for making this film. And it was like, oh, fuck, I hate this industry. I don't want to make films. It's, usually with your short films, it's like you just force your friends and family to watch it, and they have to say it's good. And nobody can be bothered writing reviews about short films. But yeah, this was definitely like that. I got a taste of what it was, what was to come with not just the festival premiere, but with the release in America, with the release in the UK, and then the online releases. And I've learned not to look. I mean, I've had a laugh looking at some really awful reviews. Some are brilliantly awful that they're not even hurtful. But yeah, I think that part of it's quite hard, for anybody really. And at the same time, I recognise that I watched Crimes of the Future the other night, and I was bored stiff. Like, I could not get through it. But I love Cronenberg, and and that's a huge production. So you're ridiculous if you don't think that there's going to be some people that love and some people that don't love. And that's kind of been the way with all my work. It's always been quite divisive. And I remember somebody saying to me, it's better to make a big dirty black mark than to make no mark at all. And I thought, that's cool. I like that, that it's better than being, oh, it was okay, or what was that film? I can't remember. If you don't like it, at least I've made you feel something.
Everybody remembers Troll 2, so.
Yeah.
So Crimes of the Future, did you just find it boring? Like it was moving too slow?
It was too slow, and I didn't really know what was going on. And as much as I'm warming to Kristen Stewart as an actor, I thought she was really weird in it. I thought she was really irritating. I love Leigh Set on You, so I could watch her kind of read the phone book. But I don't know. I just thought it was a bit wanky, to be honest. Like, just a bit pretentious and what? I wanted to love it, but now I feel bad saying this out loud to the world or whatever. But it's true. It doesn't change my complete adoration for him. But yeah, I wanted to love it, you know?
I liked it, but I wouldn't say it's anywhere near the best that Cronenberg's ever done.
I'd agree. Yeah. I mean, what actually I've thought recently about Cronenberg, because as I said, I did this kind of panel on body horror and I was nervous about it. So I kind of tried to swat up on the genre. And I was just kind of really quite amazed by how varied his work is, actually. Like, you know, you say Cronenberg to me, I always think Crash, because it's one of my favorite films. But actually, you know, his stuff's so kind of varied and you know, like when you think about like Eastern Promises and History of Violence, how different those are to, I guess, what we just watched, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd still say Videodrome's my favorite Cronenberg.
And Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers. I love Dead Ringers. Dead Ringers is, again, another one I saw really young. But Dead Ringers is also, I love the production design on that film. That's what I remember about it most of all. Yeah. And
we want to thank you again for being on today to talk about A Banquet. Did you have any upcoming projects?
Well, I'm writing, so that means many months down the line I'll have a script. No, I'm in the middle of finishing off a draft, actually. So I'm doing that, and then I'm attached to a few different projects that are being written by other people, and then I'm kind of actively looking for the next thing I do with the same production company. So I'm reading a lot of books. I've never done an adaptation, and I'd really like to try that. So I'm kind of reading loads of fiction at the moment, and it's really nice. But I think probably it's going to be a bit of a dormant writing period for the forthcoming, and sort of building up to that next project.
Well, if you're writing, you always have something upcoming then.
Yeah, it's true. I do. But it's not horror. That's the thing. So it's a big love story, but there's lots of vomiting in it and blood, and it's kind of a hardcore horror story.
And where can people keep up with you online on like social media and things like that?
Well, I'm on most things. Like I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, if anybody still uses Facebook, and it's just at Ruth Paxton for everything. Like I don't have a website. I've got a Vimeo, but it's not up to date. So it's those are the handles.
So again, we just wanted to thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
And if anybody hasn't seen A Banquet, make sure you go and check it out.
Well, we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Hopefully after your next project, we can link up again and talk to you about that. Take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. And thank you again to Ruth Paxton for joining us. And, I feel like we've talked to the people we've interviewed lately. It's a lot of directors that, are just getting their start at just putting out quality movies. So it's going to be interesting to see a lot of these directors here in the future.
Dude, I thought that too. Like all these debut films that are just hitting it. Like all these debut films that are just like legit good movies. Like I don't know, it's crazy. All these first films by these people are just really good.
And join us next week when we talk with Brian Usna. And you can follow us online at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If you wanted to listen to the audio on a video, but still just the audio. Anyway, High on Horror 420. Check out our website, highonhorror.com. You can email us questions for Puff Puff Ask at highonhorror420@gmail.com. And I think that'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
See ya.